Welcome to the Ocean Studio here as part of the Yahuwah vlog. I'm your host, Craig Winn. In our previous episodes, we were delving into the most magnificent song ever written. It is the 89th Psalm. It is a Mizmowr, or lyrics set to music, that was written by the creator of the universe, by Yahweh himself, regarding the person that he loves most, his beloved son, David. There is this horrible myth that has permeated the world as a result of the crime that was committed by Paul almost 2,000 years ago, that the Son of God and the Messiah is a fellow named Jesus Christ. And I'm here to tell you that no one named Jesus ever existed. There was no Jesus in the first century in the province of Yahudah. Jesus is not a Hebrew name. It isn't even a Greek name. And Christ is from a Greek verb that means to apply drugs, therefore drugged. It has nothing to do with the Hebrew title Messiah. That if you wanted to apply the title would have to be transliterated as Messiah. Beyond all of that, Messiah isn't even an important title, so to call a person Jesus Christ is just utterly stupid. The titles that matter as it relates to the person who was anointed as the Messiah by Yahweh are Melech, king. The next would be Yatsa, savior, son of God, particularly Bokor, which is firstborn son. Ra'ah, shepherd. Zeroah, which is sacrificial lamb. There are many titles that are appropriate to ascribe to Dowd. He is the chosen one. He is our savior. And to rob Dowd of these titles given to him by God and the things that he accomplished, which is he was the one who was crucified in 33 CE to fulfill Passover. And he is the one who took our guilt into Sheol the following day on matzah so that we would appear innocent in God's presence. So I'm here to tell you that what Dowd did is exemplary. And what Paul did to rob Dowd of those achievements and everyone of the benefit of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim having been fulfilled is appalling. That's why Yahweh himself calls him the plague of death. So we are reading from the 89th Mizmowr. The 89th Mizmowr is completely and totally by itself destructive of the religion of Christianity and of Judaism. Well, of course, as well as Islam, but any statement that is remotely accurate would be destructive of the Quran, Allah, and Muhammad. But in the case of Judaism and Christianity, both religions promoted a false Messiah, either Jesus Christ, who never lived, or Bar Kokhba, who was a failed warlord that brought the wrath of Rome down on the province of Yahudah and ultimately caused the diaspora as well as the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Jews. And so by promoting false messiahs, and here Yahweh making it very clear, this psalm will say that Dowd is the Son of God. This psalm will say that Dowd is the Messiah. This psalm will say that Dowd is not only the former king, but that he is the returning king. This psalm will say that Dowd is Elyon. Elyon means he is the full influence, authority, and power of Yahweh. He is the chosen one. He is the one through whom Yahweh enabled the benefits of the covenant. And it doesn't get any better than that. And so this one psalm presents everything that Dowd represents, and it absolutely obliterates all of the claims made by Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So it's a rather important piece. The next word, I think we're at the 15th verse of this marvelous psalm, is the first word that I translated 24 years ago when Yahweh asked me to do this on his behalf and behalf of his people. It is from Asher. It is the first person version of Asher. Asher is one of the greatest words in the Hebrew language. My beloved Labrador here is at my feet. She is Asher, named her after my favorite Hebrew word at the time. The little one that is running around here, she's Kara, which is another one of my favorite Hebrew words. In fact, I just said her name and now she is scampering. Asher speaks of showing the way to the benefits of a relationship. It is the proper path to walk to get the greatest joy out of life. It is a preposition, it is a verb, and it is a noun. So one word serves in all of these roles. So if I may, Ashri, delighted, to show the way, because blessed, happy to reveal the proper path to the relationship, and treated favorably. From Asher, enjoying the benefits of the relationship by having shown the steps to walk to get the most out of life. Are the people and family, Ha'am, who are aware of and acknowledge Yadah, who are familiar with and acquainted with Yadah, who learn about and make known and who comprehend and also understand Taruw'ah. Taruw'ah, the day of the herald. It's the 5th of 7, Mow'ed Miqra'ey. And who walk, who travel about, whose path through life is in the light of your presence, along with and within this enlightenment to your shining brilliance, Yahweh. Mizmowr, lyrics to sing, Psalm 89:15. There are so many times that I have shared with you that my preference would be that Yahweh would lighten up a bit and that he had more to say about himself and about his beloved son, Dowd, our king, the man through whom he made our reconciliation possible by fulfilling Pesach Matzon Bakudim in year 4000 Yah 33 CE. The man who wrote so many of these marvelous Mizmowr. This one, of course, he didn't write. It was dedicated 4 years after the end of his first of 3 lives by Yahweh, as the cornerstone of the home for Yahweh's name was laid. In case you're wondering, it's watermelon juice. So that's my preference. God, however, did not ask me my preference when he wrote this song. And he decided that he would address in numerous places my name, my purpose, and the moment that I will make the greatest contribution to him, his beloved people, and to his son, my king. Yahweh obviously didn't care much about my preferences to be anonymous because he wrote this some 3,000 years before I was born. But nonetheless, he knew what we would accomplish together. He knew that Asher would be the first word that I would translate on the way to having written 35 books like this one. This is Katsir Harvest. This speaks of what we know about Shabuah and Taruw'ah. It's an exceptional read just on those two of the Mow'ed Miqra'ey. This, my most recent book, this is the time of trouble. This explains exactly what the prophet said is going to happen over the next 7.5 years so that you know and you are prepared. So in this particular case, Yahweh knew that the first word that would lead to 35 volumes, 25,000 pages of translations and amplifications, and insights relative to his testimony. Would begin with Asher. And he used it here because he is introducing what we would accomplish together. So he's saying, delighted to show the way to the benefits of the relationship. And exceedingly blessed are those on the proper path, are the people, the family, speaking of Israelites and the covenant, who Yadah, who are aware of, who acknowledge Yadah. Yadah means to know. It is the nom de plume that I took long before I recognized that Yahweh would use it prolifically throughout the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. It served purpose well because I was sharing what I had learned, what I came to know, and I wanted to be anonymous. That is no longer the case because Yahweh had an entirely different agenda. And so he's saying that blessed are the people who are aware of and who acknowledge Yadah, who are familiar with and acquainted with Yadah. Now, why would he care about Yadah? And particularly in a song written in honor of his beloved son, our King, the Savior? The answer is that you would not know Yahweh's name. You would not know that Dowd is the actual Messiah and Son of God, who fulfilled Pesach Matzah Bakodim in 33 CE, and that he is the chosen one, and he is the one who is returning. And therefore, there was never a Jesus. It's nothing but a crude counterfeit of what Dowd accomplished. You would not know these things, and if you did not know these things, there's no advantage to them. The next 4 Mow'ed Miqra'ey would not occur. There would be no one to harvest. There would be no one to glean. There would be no one to purge of their religious guilt on Taruw'ah. And so Yadah became an essential element of this plan, particularly pursuant to these last 2 harvests and the ultimate purging of the mortal remnant of Yisrael, pursuant to the great homecoming and family reunion of YadahYahowah, through YadahYahowah, of Yahweh and Dowd. This occurring on Taruw'ah, so that we can return to and do a better job of capitalizing upon the garden. The entire earth on Taruw'ah is going to be restored to the conditions of Eden. You see, Yadah of Taruw'ah is the way to walk. Yadah of Taruw'ah is the way to conduct one's life. Yadah of Taruw'ah is the way to receive the benefits of the relationship. If you want to enter God's presence, Yahweh's presence, then you need to pursue a course that has been charted through these next 7.5 years with Yadah to Yahowah. You need to know everything that you can possibly learn about these next 2 harvests. This book, 825 pages of translations and amplifications of Yahweh's testimony. This book will tell you everything you need to know about Yadah of Taruw'ah and how Yadah of Taruw'ah leads into the light of Yahweh's presence. There is no other way to Yahweh. These books have become the tree of knowledge. These books were authored by the individual Yahweh calls the Choder, upon whom he provided the 7 spirits of Yahweh, including the very spirit of Yahweh, but also the spirit of the tree of knowledge. This is the path to God. And it is particularly so on Taruw'ah. which is why Yadah and Taruw'ah are inseparable here. Because not only are those who are going to be of great service come Taruw'ah, the beneficiaries of the Shabuah harvest, which is next, but Taruw'ah marks the end of the time of Israel's troubles. It begins in just 5 months on Shabuah, 22 May of 2026. It concludes on 23 September of 2033. It concludes on Taruw'ah. You now know this because of Yadah. And on Taruw'ah, there will be the final gleaning of the children of Yisrael, and that evening we'll witness several things occur, all on Taruw'ah. One of those is that Yahweh is going to gather the Israelites and Yehudim, whose religiosity is minimal, who are not overtly political, religious, certainly not anti-Semitic or conspiratorial, those who are guilty and stained by religion through omission, not commission. They're not promoting it. They're not living it. It does not define them. The same would be true with politics. At the same time, he's going to gather in a different means of conveyance, in a black conveyance, all of those wearing black that are ultra-Orthodox or Haredim. He's going to escort them to Sheol. No hope for them. Then he will send out a dappled chariot, a spiritual vehicle, to pick up the Goyim, whose attitudes and aptitudes are appropriate to go forward. That'll happen right after the Taruw'ah gleaning that Yadah will be conducting. At the same time, Yadah will protect all of the Israelites and Yehudim in Israel who have survived the time of trouble, but who missed the Taruw'ah gleaning in the crags of his nature. And he then will stay behind with them because his role is to serve as the Adam of Parah, as the bloody red man of the earth who serves as a productive bull. He is the final sacrifice of the Moedim. The first sacrifice occurs, of course, as the ram. The lamb is sacrificed on Pesach. Dowd fulfilled that 2,000 years ago. He is the first, the mighty Zeroah, who is the sacrificial lamb of Passover. He wrote about his own crucifixion in this regard. He gave us the exact date that he would fulfill this promise 600 years in advance. Wrote about his own crucifixion 1,000 years before he endured it. And so Dowd fulfilled the sacrifice of Passover. And while ridding us of our religious guilt on matzah was a more difficult challenge, it not viewed as a sacrifice, it is viewed as an exceedingly compassionate and heroic endeavor by our Savior, our King, Dowd. And Bokurim is the first of the three harvests. It is a gathering in of firstborn children where they're enriched and empowered. Shabuah is a Bokurim harvest, but of mature standing grain. And it is to collect those at the onset of the time of Israel's troubles who can be recharged and equipped to be exceedingly effective over the next 7 years and then over the next 1,000 years as we return to Eden and have the mortal remnant of Yisrael to equip. Excuse me 1 second. Asher, stop it. Asher, stop it. My dog Asher likes to bite her nails, and she will bite them to the point of injuring herself, so I need to distract her from time to time. And she figures that when we're doing this program, I'm incapable of paying any attention to her and stopping them. So excuse me for doing so, but it's important to keep her from hurting herself. All right, so that's the first part of Taruw'ah, but it gets so much better from there. Uh, after the conveyance, the spiritual conveyance has brought people from around the globe into Israel that are conducive to either going into Sheol or going into benefiting around the Temple Mount from the sacrifice of the Yadah of Taruw'ah. Then God is committed to extinguishing all forms of religion, militancy, overt politics, conspiracy, anti-Semitism, and all of those who are festering with such things, and all of the apparati and the buildings, machines devoted to such things will be incinerated, instantly vanish. There won't be a church, a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, a state house, a capitol building, not one on the planet, not a courtroom. There won't be a police station. There won't be a military base. There won't be any military hardware. I mean, no means to fight and kill. All of it gone. And every Christian, Muslim, overtly religious Jew, Hindu, Marxist, MAGA, all gone. The earth is cleansed and prepared for our return to the garden. Now, at that same moment, right behind the blaze, Yahweh is terraforming. He's returning the earth so that the microcosm of this sheltered and enclosed, protected planet that is conducive to life, as was Eden, is now broadened so that the entire earth becomes like Eden. There'll be no religion, no politics, no militarism, no deceptions, no religious worship, no political oppression, all gone, and no pollution, no killing. The entire earth will be as pristine as was Eden. That is all going to materialize on Taruw'ah. And then as the sun rises that next day, we're going to experience one of the great shows ever, where Elia, who has practiced at this with the sacrifice of a bull to purge the religiosity and the politics of Israel, he is going to reprise what he did 2,888 years prior to this date as the master of ceremonies. And it's going to be Hasatan as the beast that takes the life of the Yadah of Taruw'ah. And that's the role I'm playing. That's why it's Yadah of Taruw'ah. And we know this from what we have read in Numbers 5, 15, 19, Debadim 29, and then throughout the book of Isaiah, particularly in the 17th chapter of Yeshaya. That's why this book is so long, pertaining to what's going to happen on Taruw'ah. It's the most amazing day in human history. But the Yadah of Taruw'ah is going to be willingly sacrificed. He will give his life freely. And it's just his Bashar body, as was the case with Dowd 2,000 years earlier. His soul is unaffected, as was the case with Dowd's. And then Yahweh is going to release copious amounts of water from underneath the Temple Mount, and he is going to ignite the fire under the now bludgeoned body of the Yadah of Taruw'ah, this man from Edom who saves many, who is Ha-Nakri, the observant foreigner. And ultimately, those waters are going to be purging, as is the case of the story in Numbers 5, should you wish to study up on what's going to happen. And therefore, there's going to be a mortal remnant of Yisrael who is purged and prepared to witness Dowd's return with Yahweh. And so this is what we're going to see just 10 days after the fulfillment of Taruw'ah is on Yom Kippurim, Yahweh and Dowd return. And at that time, Dowd's going to have his seat of honor, which is the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, be as brilliant as the sun. And the moon will be a sign forevermore in his presence. The moon is the lesser luminary that reflects the greater luminary's light throughout what we have read, and it's presented in the first day of creation, the first chapter of Genesis about the fourth day of creation. So these are the kinds of things that are being addressed by Yadah of Taruw'ah, because ultimately this leads to a return to the garden on Sukkah, where the tree of knowledge will lead once again to the tree of lives. And the tree of knowledge is Yadah. The tree of lives is Dowd. So these two individuals their lives are so intertwined, they're so supportive of one another, one reflecting the other's brilliance, that God interrupted this Mizmowr regarding his son to speak to you the importance of Yadah of Taruw'ah and how this is the way to receive the ashray, the benefits of the relationship, and to walk into the very light of Yahweh's presence. So this is who we are. It is what we do. It is what we know. And the more we learn as Taruwah's troubadours, the more we realize that we are not only following in Dowd's footsteps as he fulfilled the first three Moedim, but are cultivating the Shabuah and the Taruwah harvest while announcing Dowd's return on Kippurim. And this is what we experience, especially when we are enlightened by Dowd's Mizmowr, many of which serve as the ultimate expression of Taruw'ah. This is what we learn from the lyrics and the life of Yahweh's chosen, Dowd. It is through the lens of Taruw'ah that we come to appreciate the balance shown in, well, Dowd's writings even, and Yahweh's, between blasting lies and trumpeting the truth, both of which are needed when the mission is to lead Yehudim out of Babylon and into Yahweh's presence. Over the course of the past, well, now 24 years, there have been many goosebump moments, times which we have found ourselves reveling in what we have learned, 100 of them at least in the last 6 months. This, of course, is one of them. It affirms that we are delighted as Yadah of Taruw'ah to reveal what we have learned. We know that what we have shared leads to the covenant. We thrive on the realization that Taruw'ah precedes reconciliations. We understand the value of Yadah, of knowing. We know what it is like to halak, walk, ba'or panah, with the light into the very presence of Yahweh. And or here is not by happenstance either. You see, in the first chapter of Genesis, we're told expressly that there will be two lights, both great from Yahweh's point of view. The Gadol Mayor is Dowd. He is the greatest and the greater luminary. And then there is the Katan Mayor, the lesser luminary, who reflects the brilliance of the greater luminary, just as the moon reflects the sun's light during the darkness of night. They are signs of the Moedim. And so the or that is present, this light that is present on Taruw'ah, is Yadah of Taruw'ah. He is the lesser luminary. He is the light that illuminates the path back to Dowd, the greater luminary, the Gadol Mayor. And he returns in the very presence of Yahweh. It even takes us to the point in this Mizmowr where the sun and the moon are brought back together again when we hear how Dowd's seat of honor, the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, mind you, is being returned and illuminated at the time that Yahweh returns with Dowd as king, what we find is that the sun and the moon are there once again. The position of honor of Dowd is as brilliant as the sun in God's presence. He is Elyon, the influence of God in our midst. And the moon is by his side, still reflecting his brilliance. So in light of presence of Yahweh. And while my Bashar body, as the Bashar herald, will be bludgeoned to death on Taruw'ah, that's a gift that I'm delighted to offer. In my nefesh, my soul, is going to be present the moment it is complete there with Yahweh and Dowd. So this is an encapsulation, really, of everything we have written and spoken these last 24 years. And I will tell you that Yahweh introduced himself to me on Taruw'ah 24 years ago. And we have worked together tirelessly since that time. 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week for 24 years. We began on Taruw'ah, and our greatest achievement together, our collaboration, will occur on Taruw'ah. And over that time, I have written these 35 books in the YadaYahowah series, specifically to take you on this journey with me. And it's interesting, and you should note that while I'm holding up books like these, every book of the 35 that I have written, they're free in their entirety at YadahYah.com. You're welcome to read them. You're welcome to ignore them. Your choice. We have done many hundreds of hours of Yahweh vlog since Yahweh asked this time last year to switch from being a full-time translator and writer to a full-time vlogger, part-time writer at this time. I guess we're going to work 80 hours a week, which is still our pace. That it's nothing wrong with devoting 40 hours or so to vlogging and another 40 hours a week to translating and writing, which is sort of the pace that we're on these days. It's been an amazing journey, and we offer it all free. A man who has been my good friend, I think, longer than any other, just finished a couple of weeks stay here on the island. I just took him back to the airport moments ago, and he's going to return again. But he finished the job that I asked him to do as publisher, so that all of these books now have been published under their new look and represented in their entirety internally as well. And that he has published new volumes for us, and he has created a new and interactive website for us that has a blog, has a vlog, has all of these books in a flip book portion that is just so beautifully presented. It's so easy to read and study, and direct access to every one of the social media sites that we are live streaming on and presenting these presentations on. I think there's somewhere between 12 and 15 of them now. And it's just marvelous to be able to do this through people that I care so much about and have known for all of these many years. And you're going to see considerable upgrades to that website over the next month. And one of the things we did while we were here is that there has been a fairly crude, but it was the best that was available, version of what's been called early Semitic. It's the initial pictograph alphabet of Hebrew. And at this point now, we've absolutely have written more about it than anyone ever. And we have some really wonderful exemplars of what it looked like, particularly in that lead tablet that was created at the very conclusion of the Exodus, so 15th century, well, late 14th, early 15th century, that shows these characters, and we adjusted them for that. Those impressions on that tablet, we adjusted them for what we have seen and the oldest depictions of the alphabet, not only among the Phoenicians and the Moabites and the ancient Israelis, but many of these same characters appeared in an Egyptian script as well. And so you're going to see our variation. It's now a true font, and I've downloaded it. It will soon be available on the website for others to download as well. It's a marvelous addition to the various things we're doing. I've created a new timeline. It'll be published soon, and then we're going to augment even that with a why we are here. It'll be 4 segments cut in time, where 10 to 15 presentations will permeate each of those 4 segments of time, that we will do a video presentation on to explain literally why we're here and how you can capitalize on what God is offering. It will begin with creation, and we'll do a presentation on creation. We'll do a presentation on the time in the garden and what we can learn from it. We'll do a presentation on the flood associated with Noah and what we can learn from that. We will, of course, do a presentation on the covenant narrative with Abraham and Sarah through Yishak. And so we're going to do these. We'll do one all the way up through the creation, through the Exodus. Talk about the many things that went wrong during the Exodus. And we'll do another that focuses on what Dowd achieved and his life and his contribution to us, all the way back to 1000 BCE, running through his great contribution in 33 CE, which was year 4000 Yah, by fulfilling Pesach Matzah B'Kurim. It's going to then pick up again at the time that Yahweh called me and asked me to begin working with him on Taruw'ah 24 years ago. Yeah, in fact, we're even to go back beyond that to the first publication of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which happened to be the year I was born. And we're going to talk about what we learned about this calling so that you understand more about Yadah of Taruw'ah and how it leads to the Or of Yahweh through the Katan Mayor, this lesser luminary reflecting the Gadol Mayor, the greater luminary's light, serving as the tree of knowledge leading to the tree of lives. You're going to learn about Han-Nakri, the observant foreigner, and the Choder, the Yadah Parah, this man from Edom, in that 3rd series. We'll do a number of presentations on it. And then we're going to do a 4th series. And the 4th segment of time is just 7 years. It will begin on Shabuah in 22nd May of 2026. And it's going to work its way through not only the fulfillment of Shabuah, Taruw'ah, Kippurim, and Sukkah, but all that we have to offer and share about our return to the garden, and then what that will lead to as we move into the 8th octave and have the opportunity to explore the universe. So there'll be 4 segments. We're going to, I think, create something that will be of significant value because of that. We have dogs. I don't know if they're playing with each other or they're coveting a bone. By the sound of it, it is a yak, which is a delicacy among our fur faces because it is congealed yak's cheese milk that is yummy and chewy. And the little one is the one that covets everything. So anyway, this is what I think we're yapping about. So nothing serious, but that's what we're going to be adding to the website here in the short term. And then we have a real godsend, Perry, who has come to us recently with a database experience and computer experience, who may even be moving here, who is now fulfilling the promise of the means to find every citation that I've translated of Yahweh's testimony. So a means to find the Torah addresses of every statement and every translation of God, and also a search mechanism for our Yahweh vlogs and all of the books, while also getting into the glossary that Kirk created and many other worked to augment. So lots of things. This is all part of the tree of knowledge. It is all there for you. There are no donations accepted. We don't even ask for your email address. You can be totally anonymous. You can read it all, read a little, or ignore it all. We ask nothing from you. Our responsibility is to learn and share what we have learned, and that is the purpose of Yadah of Taruw'ah. So we have done all that God has asked, and at the same time, we have as accurately and as completely as possible shared what Yahweh had to say about himself, explaining what he is offering and expects in return. This series of 35 books invented an entirely different way to present God's testimony in an amplified manner that lays every word open for you to validate the correctness of the translation for yourself. No one's ever done that before, and giving you an amplified means to understand more of what was there, as well as a running commentary and some 10,000 previously unheralded insights, all there for you. And all of this comes to fruition in setting up our King's return. Well, we do our role on Taruw'ah, and he returns on Kippurim, so that we can all celebrate Sukkah together. So there is so much more to the Day of the Herald. During this fulfillment, beginning at sunset of September 23rd, 2033, as the third and final Zeroah, my job will be to cultivate a gleaning of Israelites and of Yehudim from the olive. And at the same time, I'm going to ensure the protection of a mortal remnant deliberately left behind in Jerusalem while God gathers the Israelites and Yehudim from around the world. The following morning, while serving as the Adamah Parah, this bloody red man of the earth who is a productive bull, my sacrifice is going to cleanse and prepare this remnant of Israelites for Yahweh's return. So it is a marvelous turn of events, the fulcrum really upon which everyone who is listening to me, everyone who is on this planet, Yadah of Taruw'ah is the fulcrum on which you will go down or up. I hope you take advantage of what's here. This would be a marvelous place for you to begin. Or if you just want to know what's going to happen over these next 7.5 years, this as well. Now, also relevant, let us not lose sight of the fact that it was because of Asher in 2 Samuel 7 that we came to Yadah. Know all of this and how it is possible for us to walk directly into the light, the ore of Yahweh's presence. And even that is so tremendous, because it's just recently that we've come to realize that when Yahweh, through his invitations to meet with him 7 times a year, encourages us to walk into the presence of the Ilya, the Isha, this light of his presence, we determine the reason that he is asking us to approach this fire is that fire is transformative. It's the very thing that is symbolic of us going from the restraints of physical bodies and having our souls be released from the restraints of a physical body, kind of a prison that keeps us here on this third rock from the sun, and enveloped in ore and light, then our souls are liberated to go travel throughout the entire universe with Yahweh and even visit him in Shamaim in the seventh dimension. And so it is fire and light that is transformative in this way. Fire consumes decaying organic matter and turns it into light energy, which rises and is greatly more powerful in its very nature. So this is another of the insights that is important for you to know. So Mizmowr Psalm 89:15 has transitioned from comparing Yahweh to Dowd to celebrating our calling and purpose on behalf of Yahweh and Dowd. One thing has led to another. So since Yahweh has heightened our awareness of Taruw'ah, and since we have come to appreciate what it represents and our role in it, I'd like to affirm its timing. If you recall, towards the conclusion of Volume 2 of Observations, if you have read this far along with us, we came to realize that Shabuah would be fulfilled at the time that Israel is thinned at the waist in an ill-fated attempt to trade land for peace, which will ignite the time of Yaakov's troubles. Now, it may be fulfilled in two increments where what's called the two-state solution, which is a Islamic state, is carved out of the heart of Israel, making Israel indefensible, with Donald Trump being the great betrayer that brings this into fruition, according to the prophets, and it will occur prior to 5 months from now, Shabuah of 2026, May 22nd, and beginning the time of trouble. The Shabuah harvest may occur then on the 11th of June in 2027, which would remove God's covenant family just before the worst of this terrible onslaught commences as a result of pursuing this two-state dissolution of the Jewish state. So this is when we're looking at, it's not very far away. It's either 5 months or 17, 18 months from now. So you have very little time to prepare. The Taruw'ah harvest, however, is still 7.5 years away. It's just that I would not wait for that to occur because most everyone, a huge percentage of the planet's population, is going to die. And the events that man will cause over this period, there'll be complete economic chaos. Economies will disintegrate. The U.S. economy is just on fumes at this point. At 38 trillion in debt, plus another 60 trillion in unfunded mandates, there is no resolution for it. And debt is already the largest part of the annual budget, exceeding Social Security, exceeding Medicare, exceeding the cost of defense, just servicing the debt. And the only reason America could create this pretense of solvency, even while it was essentially bankrupt, is its reserve currency status, which Donald Trump has destroyed. It was also destroyed somewhat before him with when Biden seized the sovereign assets of Russia, some $300 billion worth. It told the world that the United States could not be trusted, that dollars were now a weapon, and that we would deploy them in a very hostile way. And since that time, the world has been rushing to other means of trade, bypassing the dollar, and bonds are being sold at record amounts, and gold has been run up to $4,500 an ounce now, because it is the place that people are putting money as opposed to the dollar, because the dollar can't be trusted. And as a result of where we are, it is inevitable that two things are going to happen. To try to forestall default, we're going to have hyperinflation. And then when hyperinflation is out of control, there will be a reset that's part of a default where everyone will lose their savings. This is inevitable, and it's going to happen in many countries around the world, particularly in the United States and in Europe, and in Japan as well. But that's not the end of the sadness, because Donald Trump is demon-possessed, according to the prophets, and he's an egomaniacal, sexually perverted warmonger, according to the prophets and according to his own history. And there are going to be horrible wars. Many people are going to die. It's likely there are going to be nuclear confrontations. So this is not a time that you want to play around with. If I were you and you are not already covenant, you have not already accepted the terms and conditions of the covenant, acted upon them, come to love and know Yahweh's name, and appreciate what his beloved son Dowd has done. If you are not already at that point, you want to do it quickly, because you may not make it to Taruw'ah. So this is where we're headed. It's important that you know, and it was important for Yahweh to bring it up in this, the 89th Psalm. So 2026, which is 7 years and 4 months prior to Dowd's return with Yahweh, is the beginning of the time of Yisrael's trouble. And halfway through that period, on the first month of the year, the 14th day of that month, which will be April 18th in 2030, is when the two witnesses will arrive to begin their tenure of proclaiming Dowd's return with Yahweh. We will do so from the Temple Mount with the Dome of the Rock and Alaska Mosque removed. So this verbal confrontation with the political and religious elite is going to last for 3.5 years. It'll conclude at sunset during the evening of Taruw'ah, September 23rd of 2033, as I have mentioned. And at this moment, those who have accepted the conditions of the covenant and have capitalized upon the Miqra'ey, based upon the narrative that Elia and Yadah have provided, they will be on their way to Shamayim. And those who have not, but are capable of being purged of their religious guilt, will be brought to Jerusalem to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, this man from Edom. And of course, that is when things get so very interesting, because according to Yahweh, and as foretold through Yeshaya, Zechariah, Yoel, Malachi, the final Zeroah, after cultivating this ingathering, will protect this mortal remnant of God's people who are left behind. Then, as the Miqra and Shabbat of Yom Taruw'ah continue, and the sun rises on the morning of September 24th to the backdrop of a solar eclipse, the Zeroah will be asked to dispatch the Malachim, the spiritual influence who have protected him these 32 years. And he will have them stand aside. He will release the 7 Ruach spirits of Yahweh who have inspired him, although it is very possible that if the Malach of Yahweh, the thousands of them who serve to protect me, so that even after having received thousands of death threats by Muslims for having written Prophet of Doom and then Goddamn Religion, and doing 10,000 radio shows promoting these the findings, so long as the Malachim stand down, the Ruach, 7 Ruach of Yahweh can actually remain, just as they remained with Dowd during his fulfillment of Pesach, because they were associated with his soul, and all that is really being sacrificed is the Bashar body of this Bashar herald. And as this occurs, it's going to be Hasatan. The corporeal manifestation of Hasatan is Donald Trump. He's not going to get his own hands dirty. He will have someone else carry out his vindictiveness, but I've always referred to Donald Trump as the Hannibal Lecter of politics. He devours those he despises, and there will be no one that he has ever despised more than Yadah. And he will literally become accountable. Literally. In the book of Ezekiel, which is Satan's autobiography, we learn that the Copper Con, Donald Trump, is going to celebrate the Feast of the Beast. And it is his intent to eat my body and to drink my blood. Yah will prevent that from occurring, as will Yahweh, and they will make certain that my body is ready to serve as an uplifting and burnt offering on this day of Taruw'ah, serving as the Yadah of Numbers 19 for the benefit of Numbers 5 and the purging of religious guilt. So there's a lot going on. So Yadah of Taruw'ah, indeed, all of this so that this mortal remnant of Israel can experience what Zechariah speaks of in the 12th chapter, where the spirit of mercy comes upon Jerusalem, and they witness Yahweh's return with the one that has been pierced, and they weep for him as the only child, knowing that this is Dowd, the firstborn son of Dowd, of God, who is returning. And so, as I am bludgeoned to death as the Yadah of Taruw'ah, God has stated the purpose is to cleanse his city and his people, to advance in advance of his arrival, and to prepare them for the ensuing family reunion with Dowd, now just 10 days away. This grand spectacle will be orchestrated by Yah as he enacts much of what he did 2,888 years previous. This time, the precise instructions are laid out in Numbers 19 and again in Numbers 5. This final solution to the Jewish problem, as it relates to their antagonistic relationship with Yahweh, is thoughtfully presented in the Katzir Harvest volume of YadaYahowah. I'm so glad we have the new rendition of this available for you, that you have some idea of how much information there is here. Because if Yahweh wrote about this, and he did 3,000 years ago, he knew that I would have it prepared for you in time to share its existence with you and encourage you to read it. YadahYah.com. Yada is to know. Yah is the familiar form of Yahweh's name. YadahYah.com. Please go. It's all there. Go to Katzir Harvest. Go to Sarah, Time of Trouble, Volume 9 of YadaYahowah. Go to the first volume of An Introduction to God. Read through those 3. Go to Observations. Go to Coming Home. Come to know Dowd and his Mizmowr. Turn to Goddamn Religion if you want to understand the threat of Islam. The 5 volumes there. Go to Twistianity if you want to understand the menace and the plague that became the Christian religion and the New Testament, and how they robbed everyone of salvation by creating this mythological Messiah and Son of God. It's all there for you, including a 3-book series on everything that's wrong with Ezekiel and the first half of the book of Daniel. So interestingly enough, we are afforded yet another clue relative to its timing in Mizmowr 90. The song was comprised by Moshe and says the following: Yahweh being the dwelling place for his people for all generations. In it, he quotes God saying, "Return and come back, children of men." This is followed by, "Indeed, our days have the appearance of your frustration. We have spent our time muttering." Mizmowr 99. "The days of our years are 70, and then by reason of strength become 80, for it is soon past, and we will fly away." Mizmowr 90:10. "Who knows the extent of your frustration and respects your passion? So teach us to number and weigh our days, so that we may derive wisdom by executing good judgment. Return, Yahweh, and let us breathe in relief." Mizmowr 90:13. Coming Home, which seeks to call Yisrael and Yehudah out of Babylon and back to Yahweh, presents Dowd and Jerusalem, even Yisrael, in context of the third coming of Dowd, exactly 70 years after the nation of Israel was restored, making this possible. It was followed by how will you respond, being right to Dowd or not to Dowd, and respecting Yahweh's name. All of that is where you will find that last statement. And I want to stop here because I want to return to all of this in our next episode. I think that it is so important that we come to know the timing of this and why God interjected and his song to his love and appreciation, indeed respect for David and his role in our salvation, that we take a moment and just allow ourselves to celebrate the realization that when the world forgot Yahweh's name and gave Dowd's titles and achievements to a fraud, God saw to it that he would inspire a man to correct these crimes, and that he would restore Yahweh's name and the dignity of his beloved Son before it was too late. And that, my friends, is what we have just experienced in the 15th statement of the 89th Psalm. Thank you for listening. We'll see you less than an hour from now in the library studio with the family hour of the Yahowah blog. See you then.